the hope that I cling to. You mean more than this world to me. I wouldn't trade you for silver or gold. I wouldn't trade you for riches untold. You are my everything. You are the love of my life. You are the hope that I cling to. You mean more than this world to me. I wouldn't trade you for silver or gold. I wouldn't trade you for riches untold. You are my everything. I wouldn't take one step without you. I could never go on. I wouldn't live one day without you. I don't have the strength to make it on my own. You are the love of my life, Jesus. You are the hope that I cling to. You mean more than this world to me. I wouldn't trade you for silver or gold. I wouldn't trade you for riches untold. You are my everything. Until the world stops turning, until the stars fade from the sky, until the sun stops striving, I need you in my life, and here's the reason why. You are the love of my life. You are the hope that I cling to. You mean more than this world to me. I wouldn't trade you for silver or gold. I wouldn't trade you for riches untold. You are my everything. Jesus, you are my everything.
Hello once again, my brothers and sisters. Welcome to another Living Hope Today study, and today we are in 2 Samuel 19. And it's a long chapter, so we're going to get right to it, but just consider the state of the monarchy as we begin. It's fractured. In fact, the majority of people are sort of disillusioned because They thought Absalom was going to be the next king. Instead, Absalom has been killed. Oh, wow. And they thought Ahithophel was the guy to help them understand what God wanted. Well, he's committed suicide. How does David now approach the reunification of this group of people, the Israelites? How does he bring the monarchy back together and reunite it? Well, that's really what chapter 19 is all about, at least partially about. When you get to verse 1, Joab was told the king is weeping and mourning for Absalom. Well, sure, it's his only son, or not his only son, but it's the one he loves, and Absalom's dead. But understand this, leadership has to get past their own personal, emotional breakdown if they want to be effective as leaders, right? So David's crying. The whole army, the victory that day was turned into mourning, right? They have defeated the northern tribes because on that day the troops heard it said the king is grieving for his son. So instead of this big celebration, welcome home, congratulations on your victory, oh, well, I guess we just go home because even though we defeated the enemy, the king's over there crying. Well, the men stole into the city that day as men steal in who are ashamed when they flee from battle. Not like victors, but as if they've been defeated. The king covered his face and cried aloud, "Oh, my son, Absalom, oh, Absalom, my son, my son." Well, Joab has finally had enough. In verse 5, he says, look, he goes into the house of the king and says, "Today you have humiliated all your men." Now, I don't know for sure if David understands that Joab is the one that killed his son, but Joab is certainly the one to confront David at this moment. "You've humiliated all your men who have just saved your life and the lives of your sons and daughters and the lives of your wives and concubines. Oh, by the way, we just had a great victory, king. You love those who hate you and you hate those who love you. You've made it clear today that the commanders and their men mean nothing to you. I see that you would be pleased if Absalom were alive today and all of us were dead." Now Joab delivers some advice. "Go out and encourage your men. I swear by the Lord that if you don't go out, not a man will be left with you by nightfall. This will be worse for you than all the calamities that have come upon you from your youth until now." Joab is telling David, look, you got to get over it. You got to muster all your courage and put your grief behind you, or you're going to have a defection. They won. They saved you. Quit crying and go talk to them. All right, well, what does David do? So the king got up and took his seat in the gateway. When the men were told the king is sitting in the gateway, they all came before him. Meanwhile, the Israelites had fled to their homes. These are the northerners, the ones that had incited the battle, part of the rebellion that Absalom was leading. Throughout the tribes of Israel, the people were all arguing with each other, saying, "The king delivered us from the hand of our enemies. He's the one who rescued us from the hand of the Philistines. But now he has fled the country because of Absalom. And Absalom, whom we anointed to rule over us, has died in battle. So why do you say nothing about bringing the king back?" In other words, we're leaderless. David served us well in the past. What are we doing? Verse 11, King David sent this message to Zadok and Abiathar the priests, asked the elders of Judah, "Why should you be the last to bring the king back to his palace?" Excuse me. "Since what is being said throughout Israel has reached the king at his quarters." You know, you guys, you need to rethink your position. You need to reestablish yourself in the monarchy. We need to reunite. Verse 12, "You are my brothers, my own flesh and blood. So why should you be the last to bring back the king? Say to Amasa," you remember Amasa was the one leading the troops for Absalom. Listen to what David says. Are you not my own flesh and blood? May God deal with me, be it ever so severely, if from now on," look at this, "you are not the commander of my army in place of Joab." Wow, so maybe David does know that Joab is the one that killed Absalom. he's willing to put Amasa in Joab's place. Now, if you've been paying attention over the last several chapters, you know that Joab is a very violent person that's very impulsive and has a way of doing things that many times leads to pretty big trouble. So, in one sense, with this order, David is putting Amasa right in the bullseye of Joab's sights, because Joab's probably not going to go down without a fight. But we'll see that as the story unfolds. He won over the hearts of all the men of Judah as though they were one man. They sent word to the king, "Return you and all your men." And then the king returned and went as far as the Jordan. So the men of Judah had come to Gilgal to go out and meet the king and bring him across the Jordan. So now we're having some sort of reunification moment in the people of Israel. Oh yeah, remember this guy Shimei, son of Gera? He's the guy that was throwing rocks at the king and cursing him, telling him he was a dog. And David said, just let him do it. Maybe it's the Lord telling him to do it. Wow, he enters the scene again. Shimei, son of Gera, the Benjamite from Bahurim, hurried down with the men of Judah to meet King David. With him were 1,000 Benjamites, along with Ziba, the steward of Saul's household, and his 15 sons. Oh yeah, you remember Ziba, right? He kind of deceived the king with Mephibosheth, telling the king that he should deserve all of Mephibosheth's land, that Mephibosheth was against the king. So now he shows up again, his 15 sons, 20 servants. They rushed to the Jordan where the king was. Oh, look, we took the wrong side of the power play. Now we got to try to go backwards and see if we can keep from getting killed under David's new leadership as he regains power. Oh, so they crossed at the ford to take the king's household over and to do whatever he wished. When Shimei, son of Gera, crossed the Jordan, here we go, he fell prostrate before the king. And he said to him, "May my Lord not hold me guilty. Do not remember how your servant did wrong on the day my lord the king left Jerusalem. May the king put it out of his mind." This is a guy that's basically begging for his life now that he sees David has been reinstituted as the king. Reinstated, I think is the right word. "For I, your servant, know that I have sinned. But today I have come here as the first of the whole house of Joseph to come down and meet my lord the king." How facing death can change an attitude. Shimei seems to have turned 180 degrees to a different frame of mind. 21, Abishai, son of Zeruiah, said, "Shouldn't Shimei be put to death for this? He cursed the Lord's anointed." Abishai is saying, "Let me kill this guy." David replied, "What do you and I have in common, you sons of Zeruiah? This day you have become my adversaries. Should anyone be put to death in Israel today? Do I not know that today I am king over Israel?" In other words, David says, look, we're not going to have violence today. I'm the king, and we don't have to fight to make me the king. And look what he says. The king says to Shimei, "You shall not die." And the king promised him on oath. So here we see leadership showing mercy. All right, if his ego was controlling him, he certainly would have killed him. Right? You insulted the king in front of everybody. You caused me to lose face. Well, most political leaders don't like that, and they will kill if they have to stop that. But here's Shimei asking for forgiveness. David has to understand that if he takes action against this guy, he's probably going to invoke the wrath of the rest of those people that are still wondering whether they're going to reunite in the monarchy. So he shows them mercy. And now we deal with Mephibosheth, Saul's grandson. He also went down to meet the king. He had not taken care of his feet or trimmed his mustache or washed his clothes from the day the king left until the day he returned safely. Verse 24 is telling us that Mephibosheth was sort of on a personal care fast while he was concerned for his king. So Ziba was wrong. Instead of Mephibosheth going against the king, Mephibosheth never did that. He wanted the king's success. When he came from Jerusalem to meet the king asked him, "Why didn't you go with me, Mephibosheth?" And he said, "My lord the king, since I, your servant, am lame, I said I will have my donkey saddled and will ride on it so I can go with the king. But Ziba, my servant, betrayed me." Hey, David, this guy showed up and told you all that stuff, but that wasn't me. And he slandered your servant to my lord the king. My lord the king is like an angel of God. I don't think badly about you, king, and I didn't come because of the deception I was under from Ziba. So Mephibosheth says to the king, "Do whatever pleases you." So how's David going to handle that? All my grandfather's descendants deserve nothing but death from my lord the king. That would be Saul and all his descendants. But you gave your servant a place among those who sat at your table, so what right do I have to make any more appeals to the king? You've already done enough for me, king. I'm not going to put anything on you. Well, the king said, "Why say more? I order you and Ziba to divide the fields." So now each of those two people share the field. Ziba's plan to take it all is now thwarted. Mephibosheth said to the king, "Let him take everything." He said, "This isn't about property to me, king, now that my lord the king has arrived home safely." All right, so that issue's been kind of cleared up. Now there's another guy, Barzillai. I'm probably saying it wrong, but there you go. Barzillai the Gileadite also came down from Rogelim to cross the Jordan with the king and to send him on his way from there. Now Barzillai was a very old man, 80 years of age. He had provided for the king during his stay in Mahanaim, for he was a very wealthy man. You remember, he served David when it counted. The king said to Barzillai, "Cross over with me and stay with me in Jerusalem, and I'll provide for you." But Barzillai answered the king, "How many more years will I live that I should go up to Jerusalem with the king? I am now 80 years old. Can I tell the difference between what is good and what is not? Can your servant taste what he eats and drinks? Can I still hear the voices of men and women singers? Why should your servant be an added burden to my lord the king? Hey, king, I'm just dead weight. I'm so old I can't taste my food anymore. I can't hear anymore. I can't hardly see. I don't need to go with you, king. Your servant will cross over the Jordan with the king for a short distance, but why should the king reward me in this way?" So Barzillai has great humility, even though he's rich. "Let your servant return, that I may die in my own town near the tomb of my father and mother. But here is your servant Kimham. Let him cross over with my lord the king. Do for him whatever pleases you." So Barzillai hands this next guy over to the king, Kimham. The king said, "Kimham shall cross over with me, and I will do for him whatever pleases you. And anything you desire from me, I will do for you." So all the people crossed the Jordan, and then the king crossed over. The king kissed Barzillai and gave him his blessing, and Barzillai returned to his home. When the king crossed over to Gilgal, Kimham crossed with him. All the troops of Judah and half the troops of Israel had taken the king over. This is a big moment. There's reunification here. Soon all the men of Israel were coming to the king and saying to him, "Why did our brothers, the men of Judah, steal the king away and bring him and his household across the Jordan together with all his men?" Now, isn't this the way it goes? The right thing is happening, but somebody doesn't like how the right thing happened. Oh, so now we're going to have more trouble. All the men of Judah answered the men of Israel, "We did this because the king is closely related to us." In other words, there was a privilege associated with bringing the king back to the kingdom. All right, and Judah, the men of Judah, decided to go ahead. They had half the men of Israel with them, but the other half didn't think that was good. They didn't like that. So Judah's asking them, why are you angry about it? Have we eaten any of the king's provisions? Have we taken anything for ourselves? We're just bringing the king home. The men of Israel answered the men of Judah, "We have 10 shares in the king." In other words, 10 of the tribes are with us. You guys have 2 in Judah and Benjamin. We have 10 shares in the king, and besides, we have a greater claim on David than you have. So why do you treat us with contempt? Were we not the first to speak of bringing back our king? But the men of Judah responded even more harshly than the men of Israel. Here we go again. What are we learning? Well, the king needs to get his emotional life under control. The reunification has been one of showing mercy to the people that David could have easily attacked. And nonetheless, despite all the political favor and the political maneuvering to make peace, there's still a section of the group that doesn't want peace. In fact, they're agitating and bringing more conflict into this picture. Well, we'll see how that ends up as we move forward. God bless you, church. Serve him well today.
Who is it who for sinners shed his blood, and now for cleansing all can plunge beneath that flood? It's Jesus. But do you know who he is? He's the image of the invisible God, and he's the brightness of his glory, the first, the last, the future, the past. He is God.